Welcome everyone to the podcast Let's Talk Internet Computer, ICP. Today in episode number 13, we have a very special guest, an invite who works at the DFINITY Foundation. He's a developer relations engineer at DFINITY. Thank you, Andrew Chepreghy, to join us today.
Hey, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's lucky number 13.
Okay, yeah, well, the audience want to know a little bit more about you, Andrew. Where are you from? How was your life being before signing up for DFINITY? I do like a little bit research about you, detective work. I know also a few of your hobbies. You like climbing, also you like the good beer, traveling. Tell us more about yourself, please.
You did your research. Yeah, so I was born in Hungary, and I went to Denmark first to study. I did my bachelor's there. I studied design and communications first, but then that turned into more web development and front-end development focused. And after that, I worked as a front-end developer that turned full-stack developer for a few years, and then I realized I wanted to do a little bit more than working on websites. So I decided to study data science and machine learning. That's where I did my master's in Copenhagen. That was in machine learning. After which I bounced around in Copenhagen, had a few years working as a data scientist. At which point I found the internet computer. And I remember we had a WhatsApp group with a few friends of ours, and we just shared investment memes and sometimes company pics. And one of my friends at one day just posted this, that he would put most of his salary into ICP, and I was like, yeah, another cryptocurrency. But to pay respect to the friend, I looked into it, and what I found absolutely blown my mind. It was I saw the incredible potential in the internet computer and saw how different the whole technology is and how different what it was trying to do. And I mean, it took a few weeks of research to really understand how the internet computer works. It doesn't click right away. It's not it's kind of a complex system. But then once you understand how it works on a high level and also what the potential is, I fell in love on the first sight. And so I decided I wanted to spend as much time doing internet computer stuff as possible. I got involved in the ecosystem, tried out all these dapps like Discover and District, and traded NFTs on Anthropo. Got involved with one of the projects myself as well. And actually at one point, it was a bit risky. Even before I was hired by DFINITY, I quit my day job as a data scientist to do internet computer full time. So it was a lucky coincidence that I actually got hired. Otherwise, it would have been a bumpier ride for sure. And now here at the Zurich HQ at DFINITY, working. Yeah, because when I was a data scientist, I worked 8 hours on my day job as a data scientist, and then 4 or 5 hours afterwards until night doing internet computer stuff. But now I can just replace that with the 12-hour shift working on internet computer stuff.
Wow. yeah. But at least now you work in the company that you love, and is
Yes.
a good trip together. Yeah, in DFINITY in general, internet computer, the technology. If you work in something that you love it, you never work, right? And it's your case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we are part of this whole movement that is really exciting. It's a pleasure an honor to be a part of something big as the internet computer, and something so ambitious as the internet computer.
Very
awesome. Exciting.
Yeah, and Andrew, yeah, tell us more about your daily tasks and your job in the HQ in Zurich, the role as a developer relations engineering. I'm curious about how is the day for you. You have like meetings, you go to the office, talk with the engineerings, work from home, remotely, hybrid. Yeah, tell us more about how is your job in Zurich in the DFINITY HQ.
Yeah, it changes a lot from project to project. So, well, not project, but rather like phases of my work. So in the supernova days, the supernova Andrew was a lot different than the now SNS-1 Andrew. as in the work is a lot different. And also I kind of transitioned from a more developers engineer role to something closer to creating content for website and social media, and working closely with the SNS team now, for example, on planning the strategy for communications around SNS itself and maybe Bitcoin integration. So, but just as what my day-to-day looks like now, I come to the office, try to be fairly early. I mean, sorry, wake up, start working, check the signal messages from Dom if you want something urgently. Maybe work for like half an hour from home, and then I walk to the office. It's like 20 minutes walk. It's a nice refreshing walk in the morning. Smash my first coffee, and then usually we don't have many meetings in the morning, so I can focus on different projects. So for example, I'm working now on writing the content and creating the structure for a new landing page about NFTs. We put out one about social media, dapps on the computer, for example, a few weeks ago, or last week, that I was working on. And also, I mean, now my Twitter messages are blowing up with people asking different questions. So I can't log in. How does this work? What is about SNS-1 and things like that. So I try to, I mean, I can't answer all of them, but I try to be active and helpful, so that if there are questions that are, I can get back to people. And then we have still a fair number of meetings during the day. So because the work is kind of split between the US and Europe, so we have a lot of meetings starting at 5 p.m. until like 7, 8, 9 p.m. And before that, it's mostly Zurich meetings and planning. And the last week, or like these weeks, it was a lot of SNS-1 communication. So during the day, which I check with the engineering teams how far the technology is, so that we can figure out what exactly to communicate to the public, and to have a flow of communications that makes sense, as in, like, don't explain everything right away, but then still try to be consistent and coherent in talking about what the SNS is and what SNS-1 is and how it works.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we are going to talk more about the SNS.
I'm
No
sure.
worries.
I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Also, yeah, regarding social media, yeah, you are so active, and normally in Twitter, also in Discover. As you mentioned, now also in Discover, you have created the SNS-1 channel and also the Internet Computer channel. That's crazy. Now it's more than 8,000 users in maybe in a month or month and 1 week. And,
exactly.
and the other one, the SNS-1 channel, is even more crazy, because it's 6,500 or 7,000 users in a few days. Maybe you create the channel a week ago, or?
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Or 2 weeks ago.
I think SNS-1 is probably the fastest growing Discover portal of all time. It was crazy how many people flew into the SNS-1 portal. And in a computer portal, actually, it started a little bit slow, but then as we started to post more and more exciting news about SNS and SNS-1, then it just blew up. And it's fun to say, because I wanted to create something. So for the Internet Computer portal, I wanted to create a decentralized portal. I mean, I didn't want this to be a DFINITY portal, because then we should have named it DFINITY. So it should be about anything related to the Internet Computer. So people should be able to ask questions, discuss different topics, share news. And that's why I started to add more and more admins to the channel. So it's not only me as a dictator filtering content or creating rules, but anyone and more people should be able to steer the direction of the portal itself. And same in the SNS-1, like there is a vote currently open about who should be the first. So I put out on Twitter that a comment below this tweet, who are the people that you want to see in the first 5 or list of 5 admins for the SNS-1 portal. And I got a lot of different people getting mentioned in this comment thread. And I picked, I mean, Discover only allows 14 choices for polls. So I picked the people that were mentioned multiple times. And now there is a vote active on who should be the first 5 admins in the SNS-1 portal. And once the portal opens up to the public, then anyone can post, and I'll just take more of a back seat and let the community
Mhm.
steer. I mean, because as the SNS1 is the communities, then the SNS1 portal should also belong to the community,
Yeah.
regardless of who created it. Yeah.
It's difficult to have consensus, right, in this type of things. Who is the persons? Maybe someone is not on the list, and hey, what happened, Andrew? I deserve to stay on the list or not, or whatever. Yeah, it's so
Yeah. And I
difficult to
get the blame
manage
for all
these
of it.
things.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the SNS DAO, yeah, first of all, I would like to ask you because this podcast is also for people outside the ICP ecosystem, maybe for beginners or newbies, people that don't know exactly what is a DAO. Yeah, can you explain us a little bit more what is exactly a DAO, and also what is the difference between our DAO, the SN, not our, but maybe the SNS DAO from an internet computer compared with other DAOs?
Sure. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, and the way I think it's easiest to think about it is, imagine if you had an application like Facebook or Reddit, but instead of having a central entity in the middle of it that controls and has full power over where the application is going and what features are being added, instead you issue a token, so anyone who's using the application itself can become part owner of the application and um and help it govern. So let's say that next week I want to change the logo of Facebook because I don't like it. Now with the current system of decentralized power, I don't have
Yeah.
any chance of doing that. But if you had Facebook as a DAO, then I would be able to create a proposal of, all right, here's the new logo that I propose Facebook to have. And if most of the Facebook token holders or the Web3 decentralized version of this Facebook token holders agree with my changes, then they can adopt it. So it is a decentralized, community driven and community developed service, what a DAO is. And on the internet computer, it's quite special, and it hasn't been done before in any other blockchain yet. Is that because in other blockchains, a DAO can do kind of a limited set of things. However, on the internet computer, because the Canister smart contracts also serve web, that means that the whole DApp itself can be hosted end to end on the net computer, which means that all of the application will be controlled by the SNS DAO, not just the smart contract, or not just a small piece of the tokens, for example, not just a small part of the smart contract logic, but all the data, all the front end, and the smart contract itself. So this allows people to create mass market social media or services or decentralized exchanges that are completely tokenized and controlled by their users, which is not possible on other blockchains because you have the front end is always going to be a centralized thing. And the person who's paying the AWS bills is the one controlling that front end, and they decide what to do with that part, even though the smart contracts are controlled by DAOs.
Okay, nice. Great explanation. Pretty easy to understand. Yeah, it's like
Appreciate
for
it.
example, in case of Facebook, it's like a board of directors, right? That they take the decisions, but like massive. Everyone that have like token from Facebook, for example, is part of the board of directors, right? And can do the decision, can do the proposal, and then vote like in general the people that have tokens to validate or reject the proposal. Right?
Exactly. And it also it completely shifts the incentive structure, because Facebook's or this board of directors at Facebook's their incentive is to make as much money as possible from by extracting value from the users. And the users' incentives are to have an application that is as fun as possible, or as engaging and valuable and positive as possible. And these two incentives don't always align, or very often they don't align, and that's when we have problems. But in a Web3 DAO, or SNS DAO, for example, you have the incentive structures are such that the users and the community who's using the Web3 service is the one making the decisions. So almost by definition, they will make, I mean, hopefully they will create, or they will steer the application in directions or in ways where they benefit from it the most. And it's a completely different economic structure of creating companies, even, because instead of a central entity having to hire thousands of developers, I mean, in the case of Facebook, but let's say dozens of developers in a smaller company, you can outsource it and make it decentralized and have people contribute code to the code base and then put up proposals to update these changes. Same with design, let's say, because the community itself is part owner, they have tokens, they are incentivized to make the platform as valuable as possible. So then you're incentivized to take a weekend and just create a cool UI design refresh, or add an extra button or something, or develop some feature that might be useful. And this wouldn't happen, or it doesn't happen with the closed source centralized services. I think it's really exciting to see this shift in how development of online services is done.
And for founders or developers that they are thinking or needed, they are thinking on implement DAO in their companies, and do through the SNS token prior to launching, what they need to like because not all the projects needs a SNS DAO, right? What should they take into account about the SNS? What is the benefits? You mentioned like different solutions and different advantages, but there is like something like backside. It is like something like is also bad in other cases.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of benefits to creating an SNS DAO, but also there are some caveats to it, obviously. So the main benefits are that once your application becomes fully decentralized, including the ownership that now the community owns your application, then that, as I said, it incentivizes users to contribute in different ways, but also to invite people and to grow the user base. So it's kind of it can be a growth hack or a viral growth hack that companies, or not companies, but developers use to grow their user base. Also, it is a way of doing a fundraising round with the SNS decentralization sale without having to go to VCs first, which is definitely a bonus. And one caveat is that development itself becomes a bit more tricky, because whenever you want to push an update, first it will have to go through a vote. Just like how now, if anyone wants to update the protocol of the internet computer, then they would have to create an SNS proposal. And only after those four days while the voting lasts, you would have to wait for the internet computer to update. And then it slows development down a little bit, and you have to be more deliberate. You have to explain your changes and so on, which is, I mean, I think it's a net benefit, but it's an extra step that one would have to do in order to update the system or update their application, instead of just pushing the code out right away.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's once the project is launched, is ready, and all the tools and all the things are implemented, maybe it's the best time to launch the SNS, not before, because before you have to test everything with the market and see if it works or not, and then maybe is the best time. And also regards the advertisement, is good way to advertise your company to the SNS DAO, because like investors and in general the crypto community can figure out and know more about the project. That's cool. Also, in terms of data security, right, it's much stronger. For example, the SNS DAO compared with other ways to do the DAO. As you mentioned also the process about the start running an SNS DAO, about the tokenomics and everything. If I'm not wrong, first the project needs to do a proposal on SNS, as you mentioned. Community needs to vote to adopt or not, to approve the decentralized, if they want to decentralize the DApp. And yeah, that's the process, right? Then if it's approved, you start the tokenization, start the tokenomics, and see exactly what is the supply, the demand of the tokens, how tokens are used, tokens allocation, what is the price, all these type of things. That's right.
It's a bit more complicated. There are a few more steps in between, but yeah, it's
Okay.
almost exactly right. It's almost exactly right. So
Uh-huh.
first, you would have to create the SNS canisters that
Mhm.
are. So now we have 5 SNS canisters that are not the DApp itself, but these are the ones that will control the DApp. So for example, there is the root canister, the governance canister, registry, ledger, and so on. And these canisters are needed for uh, you to give the controller of your DApp to the SNS itself, because you used to be the controller of the DApp, but then you give up this control and then you give it to the SNS itself.
Mhm.
And then first, currently you have to apply for you have to create more than one NNS proposal, so you have to get on the whitelist of canisters that can be controlled by SNSs. Once that's approved, you're on the whitelist. Then you can create the proposal that starts the decentralization sale, as you said. And once that proposal is accepted, then decentralization sale starts. People can buy your SNS tokens, and once the sale is over, either by the time limit reached or the maximum participation limit reached, then your DApp becomes now controlled by the SNS itself. And if it doesn't, so if let's say your decentralization sale criteria are not met, then you gain back control, like ownership of your DApp. So you will be the controller again. In this way,
Mhm.
even if your decentralization sale doesn't succeed, then you keep control of your DApp and you can continue development and try again at a later point.
Okay. And you can do a partial decentralization. For example, the part of you want to decentralize one part of your business, but not all, or this is or decentral or 100% decentralized or not decentralized, or is this possible like do like a hybrid, or because maybe the developers want to have the flexibility and freedom to continue. Okay, yeah, Andrew. And is it possible to do like a partial decentralization? For example, if one business or the founder have different aspects of the business that they want to decentralize, for example, for the software developers, they can implement something, they need the flexibility and the freedom to do new updates or deploy whatever. But in terms of other aspects of the business with clients or security or whatever, they would like to do like decentralized. Is it possible do a partial decentralization or an SNS DAO, or this is something like maybe you are going to implement in the future?
That's a very interesting question. If I'm honest, I haven't thought about it much, but I think it should be possible. So how you would do it? So if you want to decentralize your whole application or your inner computer DApp, you would grant you would give the control of one of the main canister to the SNS, and then all the other canisters could be controlled by this canister. So you can imagine it as a tree-like structure, like a hierarchical structure, in which the SNS controls the main canister and the main canister controls everything else. But on the other hand, since canisters can freely communicate with each other and send messages, you can just imagine having one part of this hierarchical tree structure controlled by the SNS, which communicates with another set of canister smart contracts that are not controlled by the SNS. Then not quite sure why you would do that, but you could have certain parts of the DApp controlled by the SNS. And then if you then want to have it all controlled by the SNS, I think you can still change the controller of these separate set of canisters to this main branch if you change your mind at the end. This would be an interesting case for sure.
Yeah.
Because I guess not everyone not everyone has to create, or not everyone should create an SNS. I think it makes sense for most dApps to become SNSs in the future, but I can see some cases, let's say, I don't know, you want to have a banking software on, that might be a wrong example. I mean, because a decentralized exchange should become an SNS so that it's open and community owned and people can check. But if you're a private company and you still want to gain the benefits of running your software on their computer because it's secure by default, then you can just keep the centralized ownership structure while having the decentralized hosting that your computer provides. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can open a proposal about that. Yeah, and also about the SNS-1, the airdrop. Yeah, the airdrop is a virtual coin, the SNS-1 virtual coin or Mimi coin. I don't like the word Mimi coin because it's not Mimi. It's something pretty huge. It's something super big, and it's the first SNS DAO in the Internet Computer history. Maybe this meme coin in the future, the value is unbelievable. Who knows? The virtual coin made by the artist Ludo and launched in SNS-1 is a test or a simulation to show the community how SNS will work, and then how it was the process about the coin, the airdrop, because I know it's in different social media like Discover, District, Open Chat, like the more valuable or active users. I have one, for example, I have to say.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah, but how is it was the process about choose the right persons, or because it's limited coins, it's not a lot. Yeah, can you explain a little bit more about the airdrop, the SNS-1 airdrop?
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't call it a virtual coin necessarily, since it's an ICRC1 token, or it uses the SNS tokens use the ICRC1 token standard developed by the community through the workshop that DFINITY started. And now the community voted on the ICRC1 standard and it got adopted by the SNS. And then Luda did the design for the token. Yes, that is true. But that is just a design. The token itself on the technical side was developed, or at least the SNS-1 token was developed by DFINITY, and it is being given to the community. So the initial idea was to just have SNS-1 be just a simple test or like a dress rehearsal, because we've created many SNSs on the testnet of the Internet Computer, but we want to create an SNS on the mainnet before we launch OpenChat or any other dApp as an SNS. Because if there are any issues that would show up now on the mainnet, it should still be captured by the SNS-1 and not really with the OpenChat, for example. So, and if it's a meme coin or not, it's not for me to say, because once the decentralization sale concludes, it is the community's token. And if they think it's a meme coin and they want it to be a meme coin, then it will be one. If they develop a social media dApp and have that as be the SNS-1, then that will be it, or whatever, in a fundraiser for artists and NFT artists, or it could be whatever the community wants it to be. And if the community picks memes, then then it's a meme coin.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's something really cool in the future, and then the community really develops something interesting. About the airdrop, yes. So we wanted to create these different portions or ratios of SNS tokens, very similar to how a real SNS would work. So in a real SNS, I mean, this is a real SNS as well, but what I mean is if a real developer group wants to create an SNS, they would have a founder tokens that the developers take themselves. That's a big chunk of the whole total supply. Then you airdrop some tokens to users, and you keep some in the treasury. And then you have one chunk for decentralization sale. So you have these 4 chunks. In this case, DFINITY didn't want to keep any token beyond the 12 that we kept for technical reasons, to be able to vote while the SNS process the decentralization sale is being done. But other than that, we want to give away as much as possible. So we created, so we have three main chunks in the SNS1. We have the treasury that will be used for liquidity, as well as it's basically the SNS DAOs treasury, so they can do whatever they want with those tokens if people vote and accept what to do with them. And yeah, so another chunk is the decentralization sale that will go live in a few days, and then the airdrop. We wanted to airdrop was a bit tricky in a technical sense because we can't, with the current architecture of SNS, you can't airdrop tokens themselves after the decentralization sale to accounts. You can only airdrop neurons to NNS principal IDs, or any principal IDs, but the NNS will be able to display them. So you can see your neurons. And these neurons, like ICP neurons, contain SNS1 tokens. Or for OpenChat, it will contain chat tokens. And because we couldn't just airdrop to any address, we had to collect principal IDs, NNS principal IDs from different people or from different groups. And we thought we had these three large OG social media dapps on the internet computer, that is Discover, District, and OpenChat. So we thought we would airdrop to these communities and give them a chance to participate in the future of SNS1. It's also because it's easier to. I mean, looking back, we should have somehow found a way to airdrop to Motoko users or Sears, but it was more of a resource limitation and time limitation to it's still just airdropping to these two communities took a lot of work and quite a bit of time. If we had more time, I mean, in the future we'll definitely increase this scope of airdrops. And the criteria was, so each dApp basically had their own criterion of who's getting the airdrop, so that was different for each, and it wasn't up to DFINITY to decide what the criteria was.
Okay, and in terms of the SNS1, this is just like a test, right, or a simulation. I mean, it's not exist SNS2, SNS3, SNS4. This is SNS1 is the introduction, and then it's going to deploy SNS, right? That is not more like 2, 3, 4 episodes as
No,
Netflix.
No. SNS1 is just the first SNS, but I want to stress, even though it is a test, quote unquote test, it is a real SNS on the real mainnet on the internet computer. So once this decentralization sale is done, it will become a DAO and it will live on as the community controls it. So it's a test, and it's more than a test in a way.
Yeah, it's more than a test. Exactly. Yeah.
And the community really and it really looks like from the community's excitement that it's more than a test. People seem to be excited about the SNS1, which is cool. It's good to see.
Yeah. Also, I see on Discover a post of you 2 days ago about should the SNS1 DAO be created, and explain a little bit more about the proposal of create the SNS DAO. I read the letter. It's like you created one canister that is a letter inside the canister, right? And it's like an inspirational letter or like philosophical letter, like people can read, and it's like, oh wow, this is something like I want to be joined. And how is your idea that the letter that's something crazy, and I think it's a good way to start the SNS. Once you have a canister, enter and see the letter, it's like, wow, you never expected that I'm going to have a letter here, it's like a kinder egg. Yeah.
I'm so happy you say that, because everyone is crazy about the token itself, but not many people are commenting on the dApp itself, which is now just a letter. We were brainstorming on what this initial dApp, SNS1 dApp, should be. Should it be just a note-taking dApp, or should it be the smiley dApp that we showed in the global R&D? But so then at one point, Angela is senior research comes first at DFINITY. And we were brainstorming about what SNS-1 should be and what the DApp should look like. And we were like, wouldn't it be fun if it's a blank canvas, but it's basically nothing but just a letter that the DFINITY addresses to the community. So yeah, this is how the idea was born, because the main concept, or the main thing that we wanted to get across with SNS-1 is that it is a blank canvas for the community to take over. But if we just give people a completely empty canister, that's kind of boring. So it's a bit lame. So then we found this middle ground of having something that is more than just an empty canister, and also it has this then we can explain through this letter what the spirit of SNS-1 is, and what we would like to see in the future as SNS pioneers, the decentralization in the future, which is really exciting. And yeah, I'm happy that that you like the letter. If your listeners haven't seen the letter, then you can just scroll down through one of the Discover posts, and you'll find links to it.
Yeah, I will post it also on the after finish the conversation and the interview and everything. I'll post it also the letter, because I think is something is a must. People need to read the letter before to know more about SNS DAO, of course. And yeah, in terms of the token distribution and also the governance, I'm not sure if you want to talk about the distributions. It's like supplies 10,000 tokens, and then the initially distribute is like 3,000, almost 4,000 for principal collected from the pre-sale airdrop, 3,000 roughly distributed by the SNS run decentralization sale, also almost 3,000 for the treasury, and it's under control the SNS-1 DAO. Then 12 is allocated for the SNS developers to continue to manage the DApp and everything. And then another 50 to Ludo for the creation, for the creative design.
Exactly.
How you decide this? I think it's pretty fair, but you want to mention something here or about the distribution?
Yeah, it's usually these tokens that are launching, they have, I don't know, trillions of total supply, or quadrillions, and then for 2 cents you can buy 1 million tokens. But and since this is where the trend is going, Peter Lidwell, the head of product at DFINITY, he came up with this idea of, why not do the exact opposite and just have 10,000 tokens? Wouldn't that be funny? And I was like, in the beginning, I'm not sure, would it? But at the end, we just embraced, and I think it's this is where the meme coiness comes from. That with SNS-1, we wanted to have fun with this whole thing. We wanted to create something interesting and not just the usual, because we at DFINITY sometimes fell, or sometimes make the mistake of being very, not mistake, but we've been very engineering focused and very academic, which is good to create the most complex blockchain in the world. So that's very much needed. But then I think now we're at a point where we need to involve the community more, and then just do fun stuff, like have the first SNS token have 10,000 as the total supply. And also, I'm not sure if you've seen, but you can lock the maximum staking period is 100 years. If you want to press, yeah. So there could be 100-year gang of people who lock their token.
Wow. This is something crazy. Yeah, it's like a maximum staking period, 100 years. Also, voting rewards is 0%. It's no token. It's no inflation in the token. The minimum staking is even less than 1, right? It's 0 point something, or
I
think
yes,
it's
0.01 SNS token is the minimum you can stake.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the minimum period is 1 month.
So that you can vote. And I mean, these things can be changed, by the way. So if the community doesn't like this exact setup, then they can put up a proposal that would change, let's say, inflation. Maybe you want to have inflation of the token and you want a few percentage to go to voting rewards like ICP. That's also an option. Or maybe if, God forbid, the price goes up, then maybe you want to have the minimum stake be even lower.
Yeah, no, exactly. But the sale is open to anyone, and then it's a decentralized, and people can do proposals, whatever. This is just the initials because we need to start from some info, some numbers, and
Exactly.
then the community decides what is the future of this token and the SNS1. And in terms of other blockchains, for example, if I have a project in Solana or in whatever, in Avalanche, near BNB, whatever. Is it possible to do the SNS through internet computer, or I need to switch the whole infrastructure from my blockchain to internet computer and then do the SNS? Or this is something like maybe in the future DFINITY can implement, do like a multi-chain SNS DAO?
It's probably possible somehow, but it would be incredibly tricky and inelegant technically, because so the internet computer can communicate with Web2 APIs through HTTPS outcalls, for example, and you could use that as a gateway to have something where you have a Canister smart contract running on the internet computer that is controlled by an SNS and that communicates with let's say a Solana DApp, and that makes transactions. Or once we finish Bitcoin or Ethereum integration, then you could imagine that through the integration you would be able to control, using the computer's SNS, some Ethereum smart contracts. But I mean, even if it's possible, I wouldn't necessarily do it. It just seems like a lot of extra development work to arrive at an inelegant solution. So unless DFINITY really yeah, because one of the problems with blockchains in general is that they are walled gardens. So everything works well within a blockchain, but then it's kind of tricky to communicate with the outside world. And the computer is trying to solve this by integrating with different chains, but I think this whole integration effort will have to be a lot further along if we want to create DAOs using other smart contracts from other dapps. I guess what we can also have is, I mean, Ethereum and I think Solana as well is EVM based, or Ethereum virtual machine, where if we can have EVMs running on the computer, like there's this code name for this IC-EVM that is not in development yet, but it I mean, eventually we'll probably need something along the lines of an EVM running on the IC. Then maybe that could be the solution for having EVM-based blockchain smart contracts from other chains having SNSs on their computer. Okay. So short answer, I don't think it's really possible right now.
Yeah. Maybe it's not fair. Okay. Not fair, but it's something like as you mentioned, maybe it's not something elegant that you have in other blockchain and then do the SNS in internet computer. And
because
in
things
terms
we can do is like integrating decentralized exchanges. So you could have, let's say, if you have a lot of Solana tokens or Sol tokens, and you want to buy whatever SNS-1 tokens, then we could integrate with Solana and then create, or in a decentralized exchange, have a swap that is directly from Solana to SNS-1 or near to SNS-1. And that, or Ethereum would be the first, or Bitcoin, for example. So you would be able to buy SNS-1 tokens through a decentralized exchange using your Bitcoin, which is, I mean, how cool is that? If to have Bitcoin running in a native Bitcoin in indexes.
Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah, that's my next question. It's about the Bitcoin integration, and I just try to think these ideas about how we can integrate the Bitcoin, the native Bitcoin on the mainnet with the SNS1, and Yeah, this is maybe something for the next podcast. Yeah. Okay, and yeah, just for finish the conversation about the SNS-1 with Andrew. What is your thoughts, your vision for the future about the SNS DAO? You think this is something like is going to implement in general in all the companies in internet computer? You think have the future is really clean and clear and good for the community, the SNS? Yeah, tell us more about your thoughts about, because this is honestly, this is the first step, is the first stone of the building or of the big house, and this is something pretty unique. This is history. Maybe in 50 years, people or whatever, people talk about the SNS-1. Yeah, I mean, you are one of the main creators of this crazy thing. Can you tell us something about your thoughts for the vision or your vision in the future for the SNS in general, the SNS DAO?
Yeah, of course. I'm personally incredibly excited about the future of SNSs and the future of SNS technology and creating DAOs on the computer. I think, and this is what got me really excited to begin with when I first heard about the computer. And I think SNS is not just another feature like SEO or like HTTPS outcalls. SNS is the main promise of the computer to allow any organization to completely decentralize and give control to their communities and their users. I think if done successfully, SNS can change how online services are run and developed completely. You can imagine thousands of dapps, thousands of decentralized applications and Web3 services running as DAOs in the future, and then a slow shift from the centralized nature of what we have currently of large companies controlling the whole application, and instead moving away from this centralized way of running things to a completely decentralized way of running things. Like it's a bit of a parallel to how governments worked. 1,000 years ago, most of the governments were centralized. You have authoritarian regimes, and
Mm-hmm.
we slowly but surely moved away as societies to a more decentralized system that is democracy. And I think the same will happen on the internet and on the technology side, that we move away from decentralized structures and we create these decentralized structures. And it was before the SNS, it wasn't possible to do this, but now it is. So as you said, I think years from now we will look back on SNS-1 as the first SNS, as a big milestone and as a turning point of this effort and this pioneering of decentralization on the internet. Because the internet started out decentralized, and then a few big corporations captured most of the internet, and now we're taking it back.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, the SNS is the decentralization at its best in the maximum version. That's crazy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, for your time to respond all my questions about SNS. I think it's pretty useful conversation for all the ICP community and outside community of ICP, because it's pretty valuable information about the SNS DAO. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully, yeah, I wish you the best for the next milestones of the SNS DAO, and I think it will be successful 100%.
Thanks a lot, Javier, and great questions. So let's chat after SNS launches. Maybe in a few months or half a year after we have a few SNSs running, then we can have a second episode of this.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
Enjoy it a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Bye.
take care. Bye bye.